was 18 years old, and despite her young age, has done a great for the promotion of women's upliftment of women in Balochistan. She is the first female vice president of BNM Germany zone, and in her pocket she has a lot to tell us and a lot of experiences that she has gathered over 18 years as activists. Let us look at this speech. Please take the speech.
Thank you so much for having me. I am very privileged to be here today because I'm very privileged to be here today because of the issues that are happening in Balochistan right now. There are very big amount of girls in Balochistan which are not privileged enough to tell their stories. And I'm here in behalf of them because I have spent my childhood in Balochistan and I've lived all those stories that all the women live in every region of the third world countries. But because my father took asylum, political asylum in Germany, so I live right now in Germany. So I have the both view that a person can have, a third world country and a very, very developed and privileged country. I'm going to tell you the stories that I have heard from my mother, from my grandmother, and from all the girls in my surrounding. First of all, because of the intervention in 1940s of Balochistan, Balochistan is currently parted in 3 different countries: Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Iran. Both parts of the Balochistan is being oppressed by different ways. But the common part of it is the woman is being oppressed in 3 nations with the same Islamic ideology. I call them Islamic extremists. A lot of young girls are not allowed to attend schools because their Islamic idols says so. They are afraid of girls being educated. They are afraid of women empowerment because that threatens their masculinity and their power. I'm going to talk about the current students' issues in Balochistan. They are protesting for so many weeks, so many days for their rights. First of all, if we talk about the Baloch population issue in Balochistan, first of all, the male member of the families are abducted, enforced disappear, and the females are left behind. I'm not talking about left behind because they're living their best life. They're living in extreme conditions. The military workers, the military comes to the houses of women and rape them in front of their kids, in front of their children, who doesn't even know what is happening. The trauma that a woman faces in Balochistan every single day is beyond my expressions of words. We all know Sammul Baloch, who was an activist, who talked about women's rights, who talked about Baloch human rights, were found dead in 2020 in Toronto. Because, again, she was a woman who talked about her rights. Baloch students right now are, again, protesting for their basic rights. In Balochistan, there is no educational system provided. When there is a school, when there is a university, it's just a building. There is no one to teach, there is no one to be taught. The issue of Baloch students, when they want to study, they want to be educated, to ask for their rights. Pakistan has failed to provide them the basic human rights that they deserve, being the largest region in Pakistan. Because they're not allowed to get education in their own family cities, their own places, they go and seek knowledge in other parts of the region, in Pakistan, in Punjab, in Sindh. Personally, my parents her bachelor's and she wanted to be a teacher. She wanted to teach the kids, but she couldn't have a job. The Baloch students that go out from their province to seek knowledge in other provinces, their seats are, the seats are required, and the Baloch student who go there has to give a different interview. The interview questions are not what you want to study, what you want to be in the future. Rather than the students' questions are, do you know how to function a gun? Which political party you belong to? I don't think these are the questions that should be asked from a student. And when we talk about the women, they are not allowed to leave their houses to get education. I'm talking about the male who faces this. A very patriarchal society. That patriarchal society that asks male the question just because they're Baloch. Can you imagine how a woman suffers? We cannot. You cannot. When we talk about the recent floods in Balochistan, it's a systematically failed climate change that is happening in Balochistan. It has the women, 60,000 women, pregnant women, are living in floods. Many of them even gave birth in the floods. Either the woman died, the mother, or the child. We cannot imagine the pain and the sorrow they have to go through. Pakistan has failed to give them the aid that they need, and the international media, the international community has failed to help them. The aid that they need is not given. And I'm quite sure if the fundings the Pakistan government is going to get is going to go to their pockets, to the corruption they want to go to. These are not going to go to the people. These are not going to go to the... Balochistan, they say, by the UN reports, is the poorest region. I don't think so, because Balochistan is very rich in mineral resources, very rich land. It has a coastal area that China is using, Gwadar, which means the door of wind. China is currently using it for their own interests. I want the UN to ask China, what are they doing in Balochistan? Why are they killing the people? Why are they taking our men? Why are they taking the families out of those places? When China came, they asked the family, they gave them 24 to 48 hours to leave their ancestors' houses, to leave the indigenous land that their ancestor lived on, and go to somewhere else and find their homes there. When they rejected, the men were abducted, killed and dumped in mass graves. And the woman was left behind to be sexually assaulted by Pakistan military. I see that the issue of women is far more different because the European ideology of human rights is far different than the ideology that the Baloch women or the women in third world countries have. Because we see human rights as being equally paid, having their rights of menstrual clinics and menstrual products. For Baloch women, it's a right to live. It's a right to be alive, to breathe in their own homes, in their own lands. I asked the UN, what are their roles for Baloch women? What are their roles in any woman life in world third countries? I want to call all of the UN ambassadors, all of the UN to act, to understand the issue of Baloch women. It's far worse than my words can ever explain. It's not my story to tell. When I sexually assaulted, if you ask 10 women, 9 of them must have been sexually assaulted. Me personally, I cannot tell the story of all those people that have been sexually assaulted because I live in Germany. I have those privileged rights. But Karima Baloch, who lived in Europe, do we have her here today? No, she was killed and dumped. Did the police ask? She told in 2017 that Pakistan government is gonna interfere in Toronto. and she was killed. Lastly, I want to talk about the basic awareness of women's rights. By UN, I'm quite sure I want to ask UN that they give basic awareness of human rights in Balochistan. But when they give, please do not ask the Pakistan government to do so, because they're not going to do it. They don't want to do it. If you want to go and work, please go to the grassroots and talk to the real indigenous people, indigenous communities, indigenous women who wants to work for the better future. Thank you so much.